When I am planning a meal for any of the birthday parties that we have, I am planning them according to what I think I am going to be able to cook for the masses. And I did do a video about why I am picky about what my family eats, especially when it comes to Anna. It just really seems like if I outsource any kind of food from somewhere else, her body does not do well with it. We end up having a hard time afterwards. And so since this video I am preparing for her birthday party, I am trying to come up with a menu with things that I can do economically anyways, where I can feed a bunch of people, make it myself. It's doable for me to accomplish, and it doesn't bust a huge budget to be able to feed a lot of people. So here I am mixing together some lasagna. We do have some family coming in from out of town as well, and they're going to be staying with us for a few days. So I do have to have meals for a few extra days on top of meals throughout the week, just normal everyday stuff. So Bryant wanted me to do lasagna for one night, and so this is Wednesday. I'm preparing the lasagna, working on the chicken, and also one of the snacks that we're going to have at the party. And the party's going to be Saturday, so I'm starting everything on Wednesday. Here I have 3 whole chicken, and I don't necessarily need the chicken for anything that I'm doing for the party, but I do need bone broth, and I am very low on bone broth. I might have a cup left, and I need quite a bit of it. So I have these 3 whole chicken that were in the freezer. They are still frozen. I put them in the refrigerator for a few days to try to get them to thaw some. They didn't thaw very much. So I'm seasoning them. I have 2 that are going to go and bake in the oven for a little bit, and then I have 1 that I was able to fit in the Instant Pot. So I'm going to let those cook. Once those are done cooking, I'm going to take all of the meat off of the bones. I'm going to put them in a separate container. Once they're cooled, stick them in the refrigerator. And that way I will have chicken whenever I need it. I have it cooked. I can just shred it, whatever I need to do with it, stick it in the meal. And then with those bones, I will make some bone broth overnight. So here I'm getting the lasagna together. Bryant requested it, so I decided to use that for Saturday night's meal because I'm not going to feel like cooking after the party. So what I do for my sauce is I brown my meat, I add my seasonings, add my sauce. I didn't have ricotta cheese, but I had some cream cheese. So I added some cream cheese to the sauce, let that melt down, cook together. And then I usually put spinach in between my layers, but I didn't have enough spinach in the garden. So I got some lettuce leaves, and that way we can have some type of green in the meal. And then I'm shredding some mozzarella cheese on top of it. I am not going to bake this yet. I'm going to wait to bake it until the night I'm serving it. So I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap, put a lid on the container, and then stick it in the refrigerator. Here I'm making some mayonnaise. I am going to be serving some celery and carrots. When I do the parties, the birthday parties, I try to do seasonal foods for to put on the menu. And so we're going to be doing some celery and carrots. I am making ranch dressing as a dipping sauce to go with that. So there are several ways to do ranch dressing, but the one that I'm doing here is 2/3 cup of whole milk plain yogurt, 1/3 cup of mayonnaise. It is homemade mayonnaise, of course. 1 tablespoon of ranch seasoning is on the directions. I did not have any more of my own ranch seasoning, but I did find a packet of some organic seasoning in the cabinet. So I just used the whole packet. And then 2-ish teaspoons of lemon juice. You mix it up, put a top on it, stick it in the fridge. You can make that several weeks in advance if you want to, and it'll be perfectly fine. Here I am mixing up some sugared pecans, and I'm not going to go through the recipe on how I do this on here. I do have a video where I made it, and so what I can do is at the end of this video there will be a link to that video come up on the screen. You can click on it and you can go see step by step how I did this with the ingredients and everything. This is the pumpkin seeds, and I call them Cajun pumpkin seeds. So I'm going to be toasting these. I use avocado oil that I put on top of these. I mix it up really good. Make sure all of these are coated with the oil. You can use any oil you want to, but I make sure that all of these are coated really well. And then I put seasonings that are kind of on the Cajun side. So I don't know if you've been to South Louisiana, ever had oyster crackers, that they're really spicy oyster crackers, really delicious, good flavor, but pretty spicy. And so I basically make that recipe, but I use the pumpkin seeds instead of the crackers. And so we're going to toast these up with the oil. I'm actually going to go ahead and put all of the seasonings on top. Mix everything really, really well, and then you just toast it in the oven on 250 degrees Fahrenheit. It doesn't take very long at all. And so here I don't have exact measurements, I just sprinkle and cover them. So I sprinkle some salt enough to cover everything. I did a little cayenne. You don't want to do too much serving it to the kids because it might get a little too spicy for them. Then I did some garlic powder, some onion powder. I sprinkled a little bit of oregano. I like to add oregano to pretty much whatever I can. And then I do also do some chili powder. I do have a mild chili powder, so you get that nice warm chili flavor, but it's not going to add too much spice, especially serving it to the kids. And my kids love to snack on this. We do keep this around pretty often, and they eat it by the handfuls. So I'm mixing everything really well. I am doing it in this pan. You can do it in a bowl. I just did not, I'm cooking so much, I just did not want to fool with dirtying another dish. So here it is done. You do want to mix it occasionally while it's baking to make sure that everything is getting toasted evenly on all sides and you don't have any spots that are still real oily and really wet. You want them nice and dry. So this is Thursday, which was Anna's actual birthday. And I am working on a video of how to do a sourdough starter from scratch. And in that video, I am making a fully einkorn sourdough starter. And so my jar had built up quite a bit trying to get that starter started. And so I wanted to take some out and do a discard. And so since I had enough discard, I decided to make the sourdough sugar cookies, and I'm going to put some sprinkles on them for Anna's birthday. I didn't want to do a full out cake or anything for her birthday because I'm making the cake for her party and I have enough cooking going on. So this was something quick I can do, but still do something special for her actual birthday. So if you are making sourdough cookies, whenever you get the dry ingredients together and you're starting to mix it up, you do want to be a little gentle with it. Not like super gentle, but you don't want to be really rough. You want to be careful to not over mix. Sourdough cookies can tend to be a little bready on their own, and if you over mix them or mix them a little too hard, that's what really makes them bready. So to keep them on the cookie texture that you're really used to, I mix it by hand with a fork, and I'm mixing, but I'm doing folding too, and just to make sure that there aren't any dry pockets of flour. If there are, I'm kind of mushing it in there instead of really mixing the entire batter. And then when I'm done, I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap. I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator for 1 to 2 hours. That's minimum. The longer you stick it in the refrigerator, the better the dough gets. The flavors really go together better. Your dough is fermenting longer, and it's a lot better. And so, we baked up a little bit of them, but for the most part, the dough stays in the refrigerator for several days, and we'll go and just get some dough out of the bowl and eat on the dough. I know raw cookie dough, some people have problems with it, but when we have it around, especially when it is sourdough raw cookie dough, that is a treat that we like to munch on. So I had the broth done. I had cooked it all night the night before. This is still Thursday, so Wednesday night I had cooked the broth all night. And so I put 10 cups of the broth in that big pot. Now I'm working on bacon and some garlic. Let me see, I'm trying to find my recipe here because I'm working on the potato soup. And so I am going to make the liquid part of the potato soup separate from the potatoes. I'm going to go ahead and have the potatoes peeled, chopped, and cooked, but I'm going to keep them separate since this is Thursday, and I will put them together Saturday morning and warm them up together. So for the potato soup for 20 people, I did 10 slices of bacon and I chopped that up and I'm cooking it on this pan. And then it says 2 onions. I actually didn't have onions like I thought I did, so I just used some onion powder. I did 15 cloves of garlic. I have fermented garlic, which the flavor is a little stronger. I still did 15 cloves though, we like garlic. 7.5 pounds of chopped potatoes, a little less than a cup of flour, and that is to do the roux. So once I had everything cooked in the pan, I used the grease, I added some butter, and then I added flour. And now I am adding 3 3/4 cup of milk and 2 cups of cream to it. And I'm going to start working on the roux. And the flour is going to thicken that up. I'm mixing it all around, making sure there aren't any lumps of flour. Everything's nice and smooth and mixed in well. And that's going to help the like the sauce of the potato soup to thicken up really nice and have this really nice thick texture and full of flavor. So let me see. So I'm going to go through all of it for the soup all together. So it's 10 cups of broth. I believe I said that. I just went through the milk and the cream. I did 1 cup of sour cream as well. So instead of just putting it on top, I did mix the sour cream in there. And then it is 4 teaspoons of salt and 2 teaspoons of pepper. And so once I was done with the roux, I put it in the pot with all of the broth, which was the 10 cups of the chicken bone broth. And then I just mixed it together. I was not heating it. Everything was still kind of warm, but I didn't want to be cooking it or heating it because I want this to cool down. I'm going to put the lid on it and stick it in the refrigerator. I won't pull it out or heat it up again until Saturday morning. And here's where I'm peeling the potatoes. I'm going to chop them, steam them till they're soft, put them in their own container, stick them in the fridge, and then Saturday morning I'm going to put everything together and get it warmed up on the stove before everybody starts arriving. So one of the drinks we're going to be serving is sweet tea. And my pitcher holds, I believe it's a gallon of sweet tea. So I'm doing like a tea concentrate to start my sweet tea, and so I did 10 bags of decaf organic black tea, and I'm going to be putting some hot water I have warming up in that kettle back there, and I'm going to be putting the hot water over the tea bags in this glass container. And then when I have that filled, I'm going to put a lid on top of it, and it's going to sit there and steep for at least 10 minutes. And that makes it nice and a very rich, strong flavored tea. And then I pour that into the pitcher that I'm going to be serving it in with a 1/2 cup of sugar, fill the rest of it with water, mix it all together, stick that in the fridge, and then it's good to go for the party. That was us putting the sprinkles on the sugar cookies and getting ready to get those baked up. So here, this is Friday. Our company is coming in for Friday night. And so I went ahead Friday morning and we're doing some white bean chicken chili soup. And so I'm putting everything in the crock pot, and it's just going to cook in the crock pot for me all day because I'm going to be baking a lot and cooking a lot today. I'm going to be worn out, and the crock pot is going to be my best friend when it comes to dinner time. So I had mixed up some dough the night before to do 2 artisan sourdough loaves. And so this morning I'm forming them into the balls. And after I'm done forming these, I'm going to put these in these bowls with a very floured towel here. If y'all have watched my sourdough videos, I do tend to put them in like small pots that have lids and stick those in the refrigerator overnight. But since I'm doing a lot of cooking, I want to make sure that my pots are available when I need them. So I have 2 small bowls. I have 2 kitchen or tea towels. They are dusted with flour very generously because you want to make sure it's not going to stick to your dough. And then I'm working these 2 halves of dough into the ball. Now, if you can see, like I am having to add flour. It was sticking to the counter a little bit, sticking to my hands a little bit. I definitely don't want it sticking to the towel. So I'm adding some flour until it starts holding its shape better and it's not super sticky. I'm putting it upside down into the bowl on top of that towel, and then I'm folding the corners of the towel over very lightly. You don't want it to be too heavy or too pushed down. I'm going to be sticking these bowls into some plastic bags, like Walmart bags or whatever you have. But I'm going to be sticking them in some plastic bags, tying the ends off, and they are going to be in the refrigerator the rest of the day through the night, and I will bake them up the next morning for the party. Here I am grating some apple because I did do a apple cake with maple frosting as for her cake, and so I'm grating some apple to start working on the cake. Thursday I did do one tier of her cake. I didn't put it together, but I went ahead and cooked the cake part, let it cool, and then wrapped it up in saran wrap. And then this is Friday, and so I'm doing the next tier of her cake. Now this cake, being that it's an apple cake, it has those nice moist apple chunky pieces in it. You have to be really careful mixing it up, or it's very easy to get dense. Like it is a very picky cake with mixing. And so the cake had really good flavor. Before this goes away, I am browning the butter for the brown butter maple frosting, and so that's what I'm doing here. And but when I mixed the cake, the cake had very good flavor, but one tier was kind of dry, and then one tier was definitely dense. And the dry tier is the one that I made on Thursday. And so I think with doing everything else, I had them sitting out cooling a little too long before wrapping them up, and just too much air got to them. And then the other tier that was dense, I definitely think I went wrong somewhere with mixing it. And because it baked up very well. Came out nice, looked beautiful. It wasn't underbaked. It was coming away from the sides. It was nice golden brown. It was just fantastic. I thought it was going to be great. And so I definitely think that since it was a little dense and it's a picky cake, that I went wrong somewhere mixing it. I mixed it a little too much. So anyways, it tasted good, but I guess you could technically say that that was a little bit of a fail there because the texture wasn't good, but the flavor was good. But anyways. So this is the morning of the party. Everybody else took Leland to jiu-jitsu, so it is Anna and I at home, and I'm trying to take care of her and get everything cooked and ready for the party. And this does end up being a one-man show because coming back from the party, I thought I was going to have a lot more help than I ended up having, and because coming back from jiu-jitsu, trying to get here to help me get ready for the party, there was an accident and everybody got held up. Like even some of the guests were completely held up. So this does become a one-man show for me. It was a little bit stressful, a lot going on, but we had some great grandparents end up showing up, and they got straight to work. They saw I needed help, and thank goodness got straight to work to help me get it all together. So I'm taking the dough out of the refrigerator. I dumped them onto the parchment paper because this is what I'm going to cook them on. The pots I'm going to be cooking them on are in the oven, warming up to 500 degrees. And I am dusting off the excess flour and scoring the dough. It is a very simple score, just one on the side and 3 on the other side. I did not have to do anything fancy because I am actually cutting up this bread. Once it cooks and cools, I'm going to be cutting it up in pieces so it's easy for people to grab and eat with their soup or butter, however they want to enjoy it. So it doesn't have to be anything really pretty because no one is going to see the finished product put together. It's going to be cut up in pieces. So I didn't have to worry about doing anything fancy. It's just a simple score that helps it rise the best that it can. So I'm sticking these in the oven, and they're going to bake for a little while. These hot pans are going to bake for a little while. So this one I'm sticking inside of the pan with the lid on. The other one, it has a flat top, so I actually did it upside down in the pot. I saw someone do that online a few days ago, and I wanted to try it. I can't say it really cooked any different. It was easier to get it in and out of the pot, but I don't think it really affected the cooking of it. But if I use that one again, I probably will do that because it was easier fooling with since it's a hot pot and you're trying to get the dough in there with the parchment paper, it was a lot easier doing it that way. So now that the bread is done, I am going to be doing the hot chocolate. And so hot chocolate and wassail is another drink that we served. And if you're doing the hot chocolate I almost said instant pot, in the crock pot, you do want to do it 3 to 4 hours before you're going to be serving it. I'm running behind, but thankfully it was long enough for it to be warm to be served. And so you keep it on low, and I have about 8-ish cups of whole milk probably in there. Have it on low again. I did add some cream. I would say probably 2 cups of cream, heavy cream to it to kind of help with that rich texture. And then I added 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. And then I did 1/4 cup of sucanat and 1/4 cup of organic cane sugar. And then I did dark chocolate chips in there, and I buy my dark chocolate chips in like 5-pound bags. And so if probably just like one of those little individual bags, if you have chocolate chips, would be good to throw in there. And I kept it on low, until everybody came. So it was on low for 2.5 to 3 hours. Stir it every now and then because you don't want it to be sticking to the bottom or burning to the bottom. So I do stir it every now and then. Keep an eye on it. And then I'm going to start working on the wassail in the pot next to it. So this is going to be kind of the station where we just have our warm drinks, and then the sweet tea and our other drinks are going to be on the other side of the island. So for the wassail, I ended up making quite a bit of it, and it was more of a hit than the hot chocolate was. So we could have made even more wassail than I did. But for the wassail, I did 6 cups of apple juice, 4 cups of orange juice, 2 cups of pineapple juice, 6 cinnamon sticks, some lemon slices, which I had some dried lemon slices that I had gotten around Christmas. I was going to put some, make some ornaments for the Christmas tree with it, and we had such a rough December that never happened. So I opened up those and put a few of those, I say like 4 to 5 maybe of those in there. And then I had one of the oranges. We had Cara oranges that I served along with some apples. And so I took one of those oranges and I sliced it up. I say it was probably like 5 or 6 slices of the oranges. And so I put that in there as well. And then I sliced up an apple, and I used the apple to hold, because it says a tablespoon of cloves. I'm not sure if I used that much. I might have used more. I'm really not real sure. But I just took those slices of apple. I just did 1 apple. And I just stuck cloves in it, and however many it held of cloves, that's what went in there. Another thing that I had going was I had made 4 batches of the pizza rolls. I do have a video where I show how I make those with the recipe and step by step. So again, at the end of this video, I will have a link for that on the screen so you can go back and see how I make those. Because I did a very bad job of showing how I make them. Throwing a party, getting it all done, cooking, and trying to video it is definitely not for the faint of heart, and I have proven to be pretty fainted of heart. So I didn't do a very good job. But I do have them baking in the oven while I'm working all of this. I'm going to take some out. I let them cool on a cooling rack. While some are on a cooling rack, cooling down so I can put them in the container on top of the island, I'm going to be cutting up another batch, getting them in the oven, and baking those. So it was definitely a constant rotation of trying to get all of those baked up.